Russia, you give your lecturers a gift before you write exams. Yeah, it's not a matter of like I want to or I don't. It's a matter of like you have to. Welcome back to my channel, guys. It's so nice having you around. The first order of business is I want to thank you for making me reach the 700 threshold. I'd like to say that we are on our way to 1,000, and thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed, liked my content, those people that keep on giving me feedback on how to improve. I really appreciate it. And if you're on my channel and you're not subscribing, I have one thing to say to you guys. It takes me literally hours, days to compile content, edit, come up with YouTube ideas. So please pay me the courtesy and subscribe to my channel. Hit the subscribe button, join the notification gang, and you'll never ever miss another video from me again. Now, today's video is an interesting video. It's 25 facts about Russia. This was suggested by some of my subscribers because I know a lot of you want to know how I came to Russia, how I'm living in Russia, what is it like to live in Russia. So I'm gonna give you a tidbit about the 25 facts about Russia. So the first fact is, guys, Russia is very big. I'll say that again. Russia is the biggest country in the world. We're looking at 6.6 million square miles of land space. There's a huge land space in Russia. Like, I actually believe that most of the land space in Russia is unutilized, and yeah, that is Russia for you. The second thing I have to say is that the population of Russia stands at 150 million people. And it's a mixed population. You have people from Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Moldova, Armenia, Korea. You have the African community. What I can just say is that Russia is made up of a lot of nations, and it is a place where you are most probably going to converse, connect, get to know people from different walks of life, Arabic people, Christian people, Orthodox people, all these people, because there are a lot of people who are living in Russia, and it's not just Russians. The next fact about Russia is to say Russia is only found in Europe is wrong. Russia is between Europe and Asia. So you have the European side of Russia, where it's closer to Germany, and you have the Asian part of Russia, which is nearer to Moscow. I think that's the Asian part, and the European part is like next to the southern part, which is where I live. So Russia is basically found in two continents. The next thing about Russia is the staple food. Most people have made statements that bread is the staple food of Russia, but I believe that's not easy to pinpoint which is actually the staple food, because Russians are known to eat three foods a day. They eat bread, they eat salad, and they have soup. Their soup is borscht, that red soup, but it tastes good. So on the staple food, I would say that it is made out of three: bread, soup, and salad. And from what you can see is that like they don't consume meat as much as we Africans do. Like back home, I know that there are some people who, if there's no meat, they are not eating, and I guess that's the difference between Europeans or with us Africans. So that's their staple food. The next thing you most probably don't know about Russia is hakutonore nguva dzese. Guys, I talk to a lot of people and I tell them that I'm in Russia, and they are always saying in the midst of conversations, how cold is it? It must be cold. It's not always cold. Like, Russia has extremes in weather. You can have like extremes of cold as extreme as minus 25 degrees Celsius, and you can have extremes in summer of around 40 degrees. I can tell you that right now the temperature is most probably at 33 34 degrees, and it's not just in my city. So what I can say is that they have an extreme winter and they have an extreme summer. So that's their kind of climate. The next fact you most probably don't know about Russia is guys, all those stories about bears walking in streets are false. Guys, I've been here for almost 2 years. I haven't seen a bear walking in the street. Bears are found in Siberia, where there's rivers Amur and Ussuri. So it's not like the whole of Russia, you know, as you're walking in the mall, you're finding a bear, or as you're going to school, you know, they're just there hovering around. No, there are actually areas like Siberia where it's like got the maximum cold, the conditions there, or they are cold enough to allow bears to actually live there. Because where I live in the south, and the south is actually warm, so there's no way you would find a bear roaming about in the streets. The next fact about Russia is that most people think that European countries have resources. It's a situation where the country is producing its own commodities. It's false, guys. Most of the basic commodities here in Russia are imports. This includes cucumbers, this includes tomatoes, bananas, mangoes, the most basic, you know, even toothpaste. This other time, I think it was last week, I opened a carton of toothpaste and it was written China. So China is the major producer that sort of like supplies most of these European countries, including Russia. So yeah, Russia, in terms of its supplier, it is China for most of the products that we use here. Another thing about Russia is that most people here, like most women, Russian women, they get married between the ages of 18 to 24. Most of my classmates are married or have been married, which is different from from the situation in Africa where we're like getting married at 30 and 25. Like Russians do get married quite early on in their lives. The next fact about Russians is that their traditional weddings can last up to a week. They'll be celebrating, and those festivities or traditional weddings are known to have like very interesting traditions, like people drinking from their shoes, you know, and all these funny practices and games. I think it's interesting. I for one have never attended a traditional Russian wedding, but from those people that have told me about it, it seems to be quite an event. The next fact about Russia is most people here don't actually own property of their own. They live or rent apartments. So you'll find out that like it's quite sad as compared to the situation back home where most people actually own their own land. Like I could be living in Harare in a squatter, but I know that in Bohera somewhere there, or in Mashingo somewhere there, I have a plot of my own. But here most people are living in apartments, and they are quite pricey, by the way. So that's one of the facts that I found to be interesting. The next thing about Russia that you might find interesting is that the dictionary, guys. You know, like I feel like the Russian vocabulary has no end. You find out that like Russians, you know, sometimes we are actually learning something and we learn in their language, and we are learning something and you find out that they themselves don't even know the word. And I tried to look at it and I'm like, how is that possible? Because these guys are taught in one medium. Like it's different from home where I have an excuse, like I don't know a Shona word, I'm not getting the context of the story. I can always say it's because I learn in English, but most of these guys can't speak English and they've been learning in Russian from day one. So you'll find out that their dictionary, their vocabulary is endless. You always find new words, you always find synonyms, you always find new words in an exam that you don't know. The next thing about Russia is conscription. So I'm sure you've heard that all Russian men at one point of their career, they are supposed to all go and serve in the army. I think they serve 1 year, a minimum of 1 year. And if you are a doctor and you don't go and serve for that 1 year, you can't work until you get that slip that you went to the army. So even here in the university, they have like they have a slot where they allow them to go and serve in the army. And yeah, I find it very interesting because it means that at any point in time, if there's to be a war, like any one of those professionals can fight for themselves, they can fight for their families. It's actually a good thing that all of them, they are required by the government to go and serve for 1 year, and they cannot work until they serve in the army for 1 year. The next thing is that in Russia, it's possible to find psychologists driving taxis. It's possible to find graduates on the till. You know, these are situations I've also seen in Africa. I've seen them here in Russia. I remember I boarded a taxi, and the taxi driver started talking to me about like how do you speak, how well do you fare in Russian language, how much content do you listen to or watch in Russian. And we began talking, and I began to notice that his depth and level of analysis was beyond. So I was like, what exactly are you saying? Then he was like, no, I'm a psychologist. And I began actually, you know, it was an eye-opener to me that, you know, this situation that is in Africa where graduates cannot find work, it's also here in Russia. So that's another fact perhaps you didn't know. Another fact about Russians is that like it almost seems like all of them receive a monthly allowance from the government. In the event that you are a student, you always receive like a monthly stipend. I think it should be $20. It also depends on your grades, like do you get a 5 or a 4 or a 3. And this is also extended to the African students. And other than that, like even after you are done with school, the government also gives you a small allowance. Even if you're not working, they'll also give you a small allowance. So that's another fact. Fact number 16 is that the Russian ruble is lower in value as compared to the South African and Ghanaian currency, the currency in Egypt, the currency in Algeria. I think, let me use the South African currency for, you know, exemplary purposes. One rand is equal to 4 rubles. It's 1:4, that's the rate. So it can actually give you a picture that things are a little bit pricier here as opposed to South Africa. Even clothes here are quite pricey as compared to South Africa. Another fact here is that they have interesting holidays like Son and Daughter Day. Son and Daughter Day is actually it's there on the 11th of August. Yeah, they celebrate Son and Daughter Day. They have such holidays, Teacher Day and whatnot. And yeah, I think it's good to celebrate people. I don't know, in the African context, I've never seen Son and Daughter Day. It was actually a first year. Another thing is that, yeah, this one I'm sure you know that vodka is Russia's most popular beverage. I won't spend much time on that. I'll now talk about the fact that most Russians are actually mixed. I think it's really difficult to find pure Russians. Even here in Krasnodar, like I feel like most of the people we call Russians actually have a mix of Georgian, German, or, you know, another mix of blood. Because like I told you that here most of the people here are foreigners, or they are people from the nations that were part of the Soviet Union. So it's really difficult to really find pure Russians. Another thing here is that the Russian semesters are always 4 months, and the vacation in winter is 2 weeks, and in summer it's 1 month. So we start learning from the 1st of September to the 25th of January. We have a holiday of 2 weeks. Then we start learning again from 9 February to 30 June. Then we have 1 month of holiday or vacation. Fact number 21 is I've seen this weird tradition before exams where like Russians, it will be in the middle of the night, right? Then they throw we get these books to put your marks, right? It's like a grading book, a book with all your grades. So we are given these books like just before exams, and they'll throw the books in the air, and they'll say some words, they'll declare some words, and after that they believe that it's sort of like a charm of good luck. I don't know, it's something I've just seen here. It's also a fact. Another thing is that in Russia, you give your lecturers a gift before you write exams. Yeah, you need, and these are not like, it's not a matter of like I want to or I don't. It's a matter of like you have to give your lecturer a gift before you write your exam. The next fact is that You know, like they have middle names. So let's say my father's name is Nikolai. Then like if I'm a son, it becomes Nikolaevich. You add the vich at the end. If it's a woman, it becomes Vladimirovna, Vladimirovich. If my father's name is Vladimir, if I'm a son, Vladimirovich. If I'm a daughter, Vladimirovna. So that's, you know, a fact about them. So you always find your colleagues with Vladimirovich, Vladimirovna, you know. So that's that. The next fact is that tallest building in Europe, sorry, before I phrase myself wrong. Yeah, it is found in Moscow. It's called Moskva 24, Moskva 24. I wanted to go and see this building. I could not when I went to Moscow. It was a shame. The last fact about Russia is that it has 8 different time zones in one country. Siberia has its own time. Krasnodar has its own time, perhaps with Moscow. What do you call it? Kursk, I think, has its own time. You know, there are like 8 different time zones, you know, in one country. The country is big, guys. It's huge. So yeah, that's it from me. Those are the facts that I decided to present to you about Russia. Let me know if this was helpful. If you have other facts that you know about Russia, link them up in the comment section. If you've gone to Russia, if you've loved the desserts, if you like borscht, also tell me in the comment section. Guys, I appreciate you, and please show me the love, like, subscribe, share, and keep on telling me ways in which I can make my content more interesting and I don't know, more enjoyable for you. So as they say in Russian, до свидания.